Time now for our fantasy football must-starts and must-sits for Week 14. If you're watching this video, congratulations on making your fantasy football playoffs. With quarterbacks, the must-starts: Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones, Jacoby Brissett, and Carson Wentz. Our success rate for quarterbacks, 68.5%. That's about 8.2 out of 12 that we get correct each week. And our sleeper of the week, Sam Darnold. Believe it or not, he wasn't that bad last week. The Jets receivers dropped a few passes, including what would have been a touchdown. Taking that into consideration, Darnold has been red hot recently. He completed 69% of his passes in Week 9 against Miami, so I would keep him in your lineup. The must-sits: Gardner Minshew, Josh Allen, Jameis Winston, Derek Carr, and Dwayne Haskins. And our bust of the week, Drew Brees. With the exception of his games against Atlanta, Brees has been very trustworthy in fantasy football. This week against the 49ers, look for another option. San Francisco has only allowed one non-mobile quarterback to score more than 17 fantasy points against them. Running backs, the must-starts: Devontae Freeman, Nick Chubb, Mark Ingram, Joe Mixon, and Darius Geis. Our success rate for running backs, 62.9%. That's about 7.5 out of 12 each week. And our sleeper of the week, James White. Last week was no fluke. White has been the most consistent Patriots running back this year. The Chiefs are the worst defense when it comes to running backs, and given that this might be a high-scoring game, White will be involved on passing downs. No reason to bench him in PPR leagues. The must-sits: Bo Scarborough, Tevin Coleman, Ronald Jones, Jonathan Williams, and LaShawn McCoy. And our bust of the week, Alvin Kamara. Kamara has been okay this year, but definitely failed to meet expectations for a first-rounder in 2019. He only has 2 touchdowns and both came from one game. Next is an extremely tough matchup against the 49ers, and with it being the fantasy playoffs, I wouldn't risk another bad performance from Kamara. Wide receivers, the must-starts: Kenny Galladay, Courtland Sutton, DJ Moore, Jamison Crowder, and Alshon Jeffrey. Our success rate, 57.1%. That's about 6.9 out of 12 each week. And our sleeper of the week, Sterling Shepard. Since Daniel Jones was named a starter, Shepard is seeing close to 9 targets a game. Golden Tate's potential return could hinder that, but Shepard should still be in lineups against a bad Eagles secondary. The must-sits: Dede Westbrook, Cole Beasley, Marquise Brown, Mohamed Sanu, and Terry McLaurin. And our bust of the week, Brandon Cooks. This late in the season, it's safe to release Brandon Cooks. Unless an injury occurs to Cooper Kupp or Robert Woods, Cooks is no longer fantasy relevant. Since returning from his injury, Cooks is only getting 3 targets a game, while Kupp is getting 8, and Woods is getting a ridiculous 14. Cooks has become the forgotten receiver. We're going to take a quick break to tell you about Overlay DFS. We're continuing to mention them because there are only a few weeks left of the fantasy football season. 2 players are matched up and you just predict who will have more fantasy points for that week. Some of the matchups in the progressive lobby include Sam Darnold versus Baker Mayfield, Ryan Tannehill versus Phillip Rivers, DJ Moore versus Devontae Parker, and so many more. Right now, that progressive lobby has a jackpot of $3,200, but there's another jackpot of $25,000. To sign up and start playing, download the app for iOS, or click the link in the description. Go to www.overlaydfs.com. Alright, back to your starts and sits. For tight ends, the must-starts: Darren Waller, Kyle Rudolph, Jimmy Graham, Jack Doyle, and Ryan Griffin. Our success rate for tight ends, 66.7%. That's 8 out of 12 each week. And our sleeper of the week, Tyler Higbee. Now this is contingent on if Gerald Everett plays or not. Higbee's numbers against Arizona were inflated because the Cardinals are terrible against tight ends, but he should still be considered a start against the bottom 3 defense against tight ends. If Everett plays, start him. If not, start Higbee. The must-sits: Jaden Graham, Noah Fant, Ian Thomas, Dawson Knox, and Jacob Hollister. And our bust of the week, Mike Gesicki. If you follow this channel for a while, you know that we are very big on Mike Gesicki and the potential that he has for his career. He's finally starting to show flashes of a franchise tight end, but he's just not there yet in a very bad offense. This week, he faces a Jets defense that is top 10 against tight ends this season. Kickers, the must-starts: Younghoe Koo, Austin Seibert, Kaimi Fairbairn, Chris Boswell, and Jake Elliott. Our success rate for kickers, 66.2%. That's 7.9 out of 12 each week. And our sleeper of the week, Joey Sly. Swole Joe hasn't been himself with the Panthers offense suffering as of late, but this matchup against Atlanta is too good to pass up. The Falcons have surrendered 9 field goals in the last 4 games. The must-sits: Josh Lambo, Daniel Carlson, Aldrick Rosas, Randy Bullock, and Zane Gonzalez. And the bust of the week: Jason Sanders. If you're a casual fantasy player, you might go through the waivers and see which kicker had a lot of fantasy points last week and add them, but it would be unwise to add Sanders. His numbers are inflated with his touchdown catch and only kicking 1 field goal last week. Sanders should not be added by anyone and should be on the waivers. Defense and special teams, the must-starts: the Packers, Vikings, Ravens, Steelers, and the Saints. Our success rate for defense, 60.7%, that's about 7.3 out of 12 each week. And our sleeper of the week, the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals offense is much different with Andy Dalton under center, but the Browns should still be a decent start. With Andy Dalton at quarterback, defenses that face the Bengals averaged 4 sacks, 1 interception, and 1 fumble recovery a game. The Browns wouldn't be my first choice, but if it's all you got, then go for it. The must-sits: the Jaguars, Broncos, Rams, Chiefs, and the Redskins. And the bust of the week, the Buffalo Bills. Odds are that the Bills got you to the fantasy playoffs. You'll just have to find a substitution just for this week. The Ravens have done somewhat well against legitimate defenses that they have faced this year, which include the 49ers and the Patriots. No reason to think that the Bills would be an exception. As always, be sure to like this video and leave a comment down below asking your fantasy football questions. It's the fantasy playoffs. We all need a victory. We all need help and second opinions from other people. I try my absolute best to respond to you guys, but if I can't get to you, other people will respond and help you out. We're going to help each other out in winning a fantasy football championship. Also, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can stay up to date when we come out with a new fantasy football advice video every single Tuesday. Be sure to hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The username for all 3 is @TimeToFootball. And go to www.overlaydfs.com to play daily fantasy football. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and best of luck in Week 14.